today we have some breaking news. Research scientists in Korea seem to have produced the world's first room temperature superconductor. Now, if this is true and it is reproducible, this will be a game changer. This has huge implications. This is something that humanity has been trying to do for quite some time, and it's massive. Polsker, I've sent you a little bit of information. What's your initial reaction?
Why temperature? Why is temperature a thing? Why is that like badass as fuck?
Having it at room temperature.
Yeah.
So because previously the only way that we've been able to get superconducting is by cooling it to near absolute zero. So we'd have to cool the materials down to an incredibly low temperature, like almost zero, to get the superconducting properties. And so by being able to have this at room temperature, broadly what it sort of means for quantum computing is that you could have a quantum computer on your desk. Whereas now the only, I don't even know if they're real quantum computers, but the things that are getting close to being quantum computers have to be cooled to just like ridiculous temperatures, like low temperatures, in order to work. And so if you look at a quantum computer, which I can get a picture up in a second, like they're humongous, but the chip is like tiny, like it's incredibly small, but you have to have this giant apparatus around it to cool the chips or the qubits down to almost zero, absolute zero, for it to work. So by being able to have these run at room temperature, it means you can get rid of all of that apparatus because you don't need the cooling, which is insane. But that's why.
Why is it that it needs to be cooled for in order the I guess could we call it the conduction? Oh my god, the conduction. Conduction? Yeah.
Yes.
For the conduction to be propagated more rapidly. Fuck, I can't get that word.
Conduction.
Yeah. So temperature has an important role, and when it's really cold, you can get that to go at higher speeds. But when it's a room temperature, it's too slow and it's inefficient. Is that right?
Yes. So it's firstly, okay, let's just start with like a broad sort of like very coarse-grained, what is temperature? So if you think of temperature as like the jiggliness of something, right? So the more something is jiggling or vibrating or moving around, the hotter it is, right? So yeah, that's higher temperature. And then as you cool things, it's less and less jiggly, right? So if you cool something to absolute zero, right, which isn't 0 degrees Celsius, it's 0 degrees Kelvin, then it ceases to exist, right? So like anything, like all the things that make us up or everything that's matter in the universe has some sort of oscillation, right? There's some sort of vibration or movement to it. And so as you approach absolute zero, that oscillation gets slower and slower and slower, reduces to the point where if it got to absolute zero, it would cease to exist. Okay? So why is temperature important? Well, when you are using metals to transport electrons, there's a level of resistance, and that resistance comes from like the jiggliness. So as the electron's trying to go, the jiggliness in the material can interact or bounce or collide or cause a collision with those electrons, and then you sort of lose them, right? They bounce out. But with typical superconductors, as you cooled it down, there's less and less of that jiggliness so that the electrons have a clearer path, right? Which means they can flow with less resistance. Now, interestingly enough, what makes a toaster is the resistance in the material that is the electrode. It's not the electrodes, it's the resistance in the material. And so what they're doing there is they're using those collisions to produce heat, or the byproduct is heat, and then that heat toasts your toast. Okay, so we're looking for inefficient things for toasters.
Just to get this straight, guys. Sorry to cut you off. So in the toaster heats up because it's letting out the heat because it's so inefficient that the energy has to go somewhere. So it's releasing that as heat, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then that's what's toasting the toast. But
correct.
When you have a conductor that has very low resistance, it won't be producing that heat because the energy is being used via another way, not as heat.
Well, the electrons are just getting transported through instead of being lost or collided out as heat.
Right. Okay.
Superconductors are essentially like there's no resistance there. So the electrons have a clean path. Whereas in things that have resistance, they don't have a clean path. And then we lose some of the energy as heat. And heat is like less useful for certain things. And so in another example would be electric cars. So in electric cars, you have loss because of the inefficiencies, and a byproduct of that is heat. So then you have to cool the batteries down, you have to cool the components down using heat pumps and a bunch of other stuff, which requires energy as well. And so it's like double inefficient, if that makes sense.
Elon's going to love this technology, guy.
Yeah, well, like everyone should love this technology because it means that you can have, almost, or it like theoretically, it's zero loss power transmission or energy transmission. So we don't lose it anymore. So this is like, the kind of stuff that may make almost perpetual motion machines possible, kind of thing. So the reason why perpetual motion isn't possible is because you have that loss of heat with the interactions or the, collisions or whatever in the system. So that's why, we don't have 100% efficiency, but this is kind of something that, opens the door to getting closer and closer to that.
Shit, guy. So these Korean scientists have found a way to solve the temperature problem. Is that correct?
Well, they've found a way to get superconductivity via a different mechanism, which is these, they call them superconducting quantum wells, which is kind of like this, different way of achieving that same thing. And the way they've done it is fascinating because it's like an incredibly primitive method that they used to make this material. Now, the material, they've called it LK99. And I can give you I'll just quickly read the abstract of the paper. So for the first time in the world, we succeeded in synthesizing the room temperature superconductor with a critical temperature greater than or equal to 400 degrees Kelvin, which is 127 degrees. Working at ambient pressure with a modified lead apatite LK99 structure. The superconductivity of LK99 is proven with the critical temperature, TC, zero resistivity, critical current, IC, critical magnetic field, HC, and the Meissner effect. The superconductivity of LK99 originates from the minute structural distortion by a slight volume shrinkage of 0.48%, not by external factors such as temperature and pressure. The shrinkage is caused by Cu2 plus substitution of Pb2 ions in the insulating network of Pb2 phosphate, and it generates the stress. It concurrently transfers Pb1 of the cylindrical column, resulting in distortion of the cylindrical column interface, which creates superconducting quantum wells in the interface. The heat capacity results indicated that the new model is suitable for explaining the superconductivity of LK99. The unique structure of LK99 that allows the minute distorted structure to be maintained in the interfaces is the most important factor that LK99 maintains and exhibits superconductivity at room temperature and ambient pressure. So just quickly, they've sort of done this with lead, copper, and red phosphate. And these aren't like exotic sort of things, like they're relatively abundant and, accessible. And
I think there was one more. I think there's one more, Rubes. There was four things. There was four elements that they used.
Yeah, I think it's Cu2. No, I think it's, lead, copper, and different forms of
regardless, it
phosphate.
was a snipe that they were able to create it with such like little elements and at a low cost as well. That's what's significant about that, I believe.
Yeah, and the other crazy thing, so if you go, which we will do, but you go through and you read the method, right? And they're like, yes, and we combined these things, we used a mortar and pestle. the tub and the grinding thing.
Oh,
So, like,
really?
yeah. So, like,
Oh shit, that's funny. That's funny.
hella basic. There were some
Oh
other
yeah.
things where they had to pull quite a good vacuum and do some other stuff, but like, it's hella basic. So what's really interesting about this now is, obviously, you sort of are a little bit skeptical hearing about these things because such claims have been made previously. But there are a number of people who are currently trying to replicate this on Twitter, and I would assume soon to be on YouTube as well. So, like, how long till we have
There's been a couple of scams.
Really? Okay, I'll wrap it up. So, I'm excited because how long is it? Like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we see YouTubers starting to do this or trying to replicate the results of this. There's already people on Twitter who are live streaming the process. Like they've got the materials. They are replicating the method used to make it, and so like within a few weeks or months, we might be able to see how legit this thing is. So yeah, it's like hella exciting.
So what is important about the ambient pressure? Why is that significant?
So previously, there's a guy that claimed another group of people had claimed that they'd been able to make a room temperature superconductor, but it had to be done at incredibly high pressures, right? And so the pressure is sort of like forces it to get that alignment so it can have that smooth transition or that frictionless transmission. Whereas this has been done at room temperature and at ambient pressure, which means you don't need those incredibly high pressures. So anytime you need to create, a really low temperature or a really high pressure or even like a really low pressure, that requires energy and work to do it. So you have to spend energy to get those results. Whereas with this one, it's like, it's kind of like you get it all kind of for free in a sense. Like you don't have to do all that and you get these amazing benefits. So that's it's incredibly scalable.
So what I heard is that there's been attempts before to say that they have like solved this issue, and other studies have come out and they couldn't replicate them, right? And they found there was like fabrications in the numbers or something along those lines. So these papers were never retracted. So people are very skeptical about this one that has just come out. So
Correct.
I guess we will see, but it's very, very exciting.
Yeah. So it's important to note that the papers that you're talking about, they were using different things and they were claiming it under different criteria. So one that I think you might specifically be talking about is the one at incredibly high pressures. And I think it was an Indian group or an Indian guy. And then they published the paper, then the paper got retracted because no one was able to replicate it. And there was claims of data manipulation and some fuckery going on. But this is a different mechanism, and it's like a really novel mechanism that the superconducting quantum wells is like a way we kind of didn't really like think about kind of thing. So it's just like a different way of getting superconducting, which is fascinating, like really fascinating when you think about it.
What's important or what's significant about having computers with quantum computers? What applications would that have for like everyday people?
Well, it depends on which camp you're in, so to speak. So quantum computers, there's a thing called Shor's algorithm, which essentially, if you can, Shor's algorithm, only runs on a quantum computer, where you can only run it effectively on a quantum computer, in theory. And so if quantum computers are possible and we can run Shor's algorithm on a quantum computer, it renders the algorithm that renders the security of Bitcoin redundant. So you could hack all of the private keys, and so Bitcoin would become redundant if that's a thing. But so quantum computers are promised to be able to solve very complex, very hard mathematical problems in faster amounts of time. So things that would be sort of largely impractical to try and solve, or almost impossible to solve, are now solvable with quantum computers. I can give a quick, brief rundown. So I know how to explain it in the Wolfram thing, but then Wolfram doesn't think that quantum computers are going to be a thing. He reckons it's just going to be the same. But people who do believe that quantum computing is the next thing, it gives us more computational powers. We're essentially leveraging the branching effects of the quantum realm to solve problems. And so it allows us to solve like NP problems in P time or in polynomial time. I think that would be a safe thing to say.
So they would make, basically it would make the quantum computer smaller, right? Because it wouldn't need that cooling system. Is that right?
It would make the entire setup smaller. And so if quantum computers are a thing, if quantum computing is a huge speed up beyond just regular computation, then this would make it possible for, quantum computers. It would make it more possible. It would make it easier. It would make it more accessible to everybody. So you, like, at the moment, the only people that can really have or develop quantum computers are like humongous tech companies or governments, just because of the amount of overheads that go into all the equipment and maintaining it and doing all that sort of stuff. Whereas if this is real and quantum computing is real, then this would mean that it's like accessible for humanity.
Jesus, guy, sorry, guy. I'm tripping out, guy. I think I smoked too much weed before this one. Fuck. This is tripping me out. Holy, I need to take a break for a second. Jesus Christ.
It's a game changer.
Bro, you're filling me up with mad knowledge, guy. Holy shit. You're ejaculating deep in my glutes, guy, with this information. Holy fuck. I'm having a hard time absorbing all this jizz, guy. Yo, like, let's do like one little bit at a time. All right.
I'm a little bit overhyped as well. Like I'm struggling to string my sentences together because I'm like, there's so many things to go in with this. And each one of these is like a huge long conversation in and of itself. And so like, we have to sort of skim across and just be very coarse grained to start with. And then like, we can go over this over the coming weeks and as things develop.
Oh, I like this. A development, guy. First development on Idiots Squared podcast, guy. All right. This sounds
I think it'd be interesting to follow the progress, right? Like, even if it is bullshit, like I think there's still a bunch of cool shit in here. Like, even these the superconducting quantum wells are fascinating.
What other applications would it have?
Well, so like zero loss or near zero loss energy transmission. So like when you generate power at a power station and then you have to transmit it somewhere, there's an inherent loss. So like if you generate 100 units of energy, the longer you transmit that over the wires, the more energy you lose. So you never end up with 100% at the destination. You always lose energy. And this would essentially allow it to be lossless in some sense.
Lossless energy
transmission.
Okay. So I think one of the examples in the video I watched was you'd be able to charge things more efficiently.
Yes.
For example, like cell phones, cars.
Yeah, like
Elon Musk
phones.
Elon probably has a boner right now, hoping this shit fucking works. Imagine being able to charge Teslas that fast. I think they would start selling a lot more if this technology works like it says it does.
Guy, it's not just the charging though. It's like the range of them would be increased as well, because you're not having the losses along the system. Like, you lose so much of the electricity or the electrons to heat, essentially, through inefficiencies. And so by optimizing that, or by having near lossless transmission, everything becomes so much more efficient. So the range of your car or the Tesla would increase. The life of your battery on your cell phone would increase. Like, you wouldn't have to charge it as much. So you know what I mean? Like, you use less electricity, but you get so much more. So it's like, it really is like another industrial revolution if this is real. And the fact that they did it with just such basic shit, it means that, like, not necessarily average Joe, but like, someone with a decent knowledge of chemistry can fucking replicate this, and it's cool as shit. And there are people currently live streaming the process on Twitter. Like, there's people doing this in real time, like doing it. So yeah, I think the only bottleneck so far has been getting access to the red phosphorus. And so like a bunch of the sites that sell that were crashing because of the amount of people jumping on trying to buy it. And then there's I think there might be an FDA thing about phosphorus as well, but like only certain people can buy it. But besides that, like, well, you can make your own as well. But anyway, tangent upon tangent.
How can we invest in phosphorus then, Guy? Or how can we invest in this technology?
Yeah, well, so one thing would be is like, maybe buy some stocks that are involved in mining lead and copper and phosphorus.
Shit, Guy.
Yeah.
Could be a good bet. Well, it's a risk because we don't know for sure yet, but why not? I put a load in there, Guy. Never know.
No risk, no reward. So yeah, but that could be one thing to be mindful of. So yeah, maybe looking at the metals exchanges and seeing what's fucking around there. But yeah, it's insane. And there's some interesting stuff. So they originally published a paper with 6 authors. And then there's like this thing about the Nobel Prize that only 3 people can win the Nobel Prize. So then they published another paper with just 3 authors on it. And so a lot of people online are...
that's weird.
Well, no, but it's like bullish in a sense because they're like, they're really getting ready for this thing.
Yeah, but like are they implying that they deserve the Nobel Prize, or are they doing it as a strategic thing to get chosen? You know what I mean? Like, well, it seems like they're trying to project.
Yeah, but it also seems as if they're preparing for it at the same time. So they, is it one or the other? We don't know yet. Only time will tell. But like, it could be interpreted as like a very bullish sort of thing. But yeah, it's bonkers.
I'm struggling over here, Guy. I'm struggling. This was a bad idea to blaze before because like I'm way too. I'm like overstimulated now. Fuck, I'm overstimulated over here, guys. This sounds fucking nuts. I'm thinking like, okay, so if I'm just trying to think of like what is the application for everyday people, and I get it makes certain things faster, more convenient, but I'm trying to think of what other applications could this be used for? Like, I guess creating energy itself, right?
No, but transmitting it, yes.
Okay, so what would that mean for like a nuclear power plant?
Well, it means that the energy generated, or that's the energy unlocked from the nuclear reaction, from the power plant, can be transmitted around the world with almost zero loss. So it's improving the efficiency of our energy transmission.
So we would need to produce less energy, like, to bring, well, we're probably always going to need to produce more because we're growing and the economy needs to continue growing and everything else. But what I'm saying is, like, if we changed today to like a new grid with this technology, then we would need to produce a lot less energy, right? Because it's a lot more efficient. So you don't need as much power, correct?
Yes. But so instead of producing less, we would produce the same amount, but we would be able to do more with that same amount.
Yeah.
So it's like, imagine your dollar went further. You don't need to earn more. All of a sudden you can do more with your dollar because your dollar is going further. You're not getting hammered. Okay, imagine like if there were taxes and stuff like that. Like, you could do a lot more with your money because you're not losing money to tax, kind of thing.
What are energy companies going to do then?
I would say likely invest in the technology.
Yeah, you have to, right? Either jump on board or you're done.
Yeah, big time. So yeah, it's fascinating. So yeah, this will have huge implications for energy transmission, for computing, both like traditional and quantum computing. Another thing that this makes possible is, like, have you ever seen those levitating trains? Right. So like like
the maglev trains.
That's right. That's exactly what this can lead to, that Meissner effect. Right. So one big thing with trains is, like, trains are very efficient, don't get me wrong, but they still have inefficiencies. Like, because the train is in contact with the rails, that you lose some of the energy through friction and through heat as well, right? So by not having the train be in contact with anything, it's levitated by magnetism, right? Then it's friction, like, not frictionless, because you still have friction from the air, like colliding with the molecules in the air. But you lose all of that friction from the tracks and from the
Right.
wheels on the tracks. And so train
Right.
become more efficient. So you can, like, essentially, if there was no resistance, like no air resistance and no resistance from the tracks and the wheels, if you just pushed a train, it would just keep going. Right? Like you could just put one little bit of energy in and it would just keep going. And so
Could it be
this
faster?
makes, like, well, yeah, because it's easier to accelerate because you're not losing energy through friction.
Right, but the top speed, because we can't accelerate like too much because there's people inside, right? But what about the top speed of it though?
Yeah. All of it's increased because of the efficiency. Like, so to get faster and faster, you have to put more and more energy in, right, to overcome the friction in the environment, right?
Yeah.
And so by taking away one of those, like, whole aspects of friction, it just means you can put less in and get the same out.
How fast do you think these trains could be, guy? Because right now, I think the fastest ones are like between 300 and 400 kilometers an hour.
Guy, if you put these in a vacuum tube, right? So there's a vacuum tube so that you're not getting any of that resistance from the air.
No, I mean without the vacuum. Yeah.
No, I'm saying with the vacuum tube. Like, this is Tesla have Elon Musk has a thing trying to develop a hyperloop, right? That's what the hyperloop essentially is. So if you do that plus the magnetic levitation, so you have it in a vacuum tube and it's magnetically levitated, it's fucking, these things would be ridiculous. Like, you could get from here to anywhere in like a very short period of time. The only limit would be the human body's ability to maintain its structure under extreme acceleration and speed.
How fast do you think it could be without the tube though? Like, if we compared it to the fastest train right now, just change that one technology, so just that one thing, but you still have the same wind resistance, like normal. You know what I mean? How much faster do you think it would be?
Well, you could easily double it.
Shit, guy. 800. Imagine going 800 kilometers an hour on a train.
Yeah, you could easily double it.
Have you been on a train before that goes like over 300?
No, I have not been on the super fast trains. I've only been on the slow older trains.
It takes a second. Yeah, like when you first get on it, you're what's it called? Like when you're on the edge of your seat, anticipating.
Yeah.
You're anticipating the speed, right? And you get up to around 200, you're like, holy fuck, this is fast. Like, it's going to go 100 more. And when it gets up to, I think they get like over 300. I believe that's what I remember seeing on the speedometer. It's like, holy fuck, you are moving, bro. It's wild. It's like, holy shit. Like, it's crazy fast.
Shit happens quick. So like,
I don't know if they could have windows going 800. Imagine having windows.
Negative.
And it going 800, guy?
You can't have windows, guy. It becomes very dangerous. But like, it makes so much stuff possible. It's really, really fascinating. And yeah, if true, this is just huge. The implications are massive. And there's so much stuff that this will impact that we don't even know about yet, right? Like there's so many other, other uses and implications that we won't even know about just yet. It's bonkers. It's a really exciting time to be alive. So like, we've had this huge paradigm shift with the AI ML stuff. And now we're getting this on top of it. If it's true and it's replicable, it's just like shit's accelerating at a rate we've never even fucking experienced before. Like, it's bonkers.